Welcome back, my fellow shredders. Today I'm going to explain a lot about bending and vibrato and how to make it wicked. I'm sure a lot of you already know about bending and vibrato, and I'm not saying you don't. But I've got a take on it that if you're not doing it like this, you can expand your bending and vibrato to make yourself a bigger, better player. And that's not a bad thing, right? So I'm going to show you some other ways or some new ways or some ways you can just do it differently or build bigger, better skill from what you already have. Or if you're not a bender at all, this would be a great way to begin. If you're not familiar with vibrato or you use it minimally or you avoid it because you're not great at it, well, I'm going to show you a lot of easy ways to get good at it very quickly, especially once you obtain a couple little things that we need to understand. And then the progress comes a lot faster. So I'm going to try to treat this like a regular guitar lesson, like you're sitting with me on a Saturday morning at some local music store with dust in the corners. Only the better thing about that is we don't have to hear any other players through the walls. So let's get into how we're going to master bending and vibrato. By the way, a lot of players use this style that I'm going to show you. Guys like Zakk Wylde use it, Dimebag used it, Stevie used it, as you've seen on some of my other videos. But there are some other players who also use this extreme style who came before these guys. And one of those guys, namely, is John Sykes, who has recently passed away at the age of 65 from his battle with cancer. John was the main writer on the big 1987 Whitesnake record, and he had gone on to form his own band called Blue Murder. And on that Blue Murder record, John showed some extreme wild bending technique that just taught us to take it to a whole new level. And once that album came out, we saw players using that style of technique. So a lot of what I'm going to show you is stuff I got from that Blue Murder record. I believe there's only one. So I'm going to show you some things that are, other players have been doing, but these are to the extreme side of bending and vibrato. And really just for those guys that want to incorporate a lot of it into their playing. For me, it's a lot. Okay, so I add a lot of it to my style, and it's very much well known for me that I use a lot of bending and vibrato. A lot. I mean, honestly, I think I use more than anybody I've grown up listening to, any of my peers today even. I just use an enormous amount. But I've spent time to work it into my style, the same way Eddie Van Halen has just managed to work chromatics into his moves, that every single thing he plays, he has some sort of chromatic walk down. Well, that's just basically the way I am with the vibrato. I wedge it into everything I can get it into. Whether it belongs there or not, I find a way to make it work because I love it. So everything from a double stop bend, one of those, or maybe one of these, right? Putting the little delay on it. Or just using them in the key, the double stops. Stuff like that. There's just all sorts of ways we can bend the vibrato. So let's get right into the differences between bending and vibrato. There are differences. They're not the same thing, even though a lot of people think they are. Let me just make that very clear. They are two different techniques. And although they're similar, they are not the same. And so we know what that's all about. Everybody knows what that means. So the definition, really, let's really just understand what the true differences are by definition, I guess you could say. Bending, by definition, goes to another pitch in your scale that you're currently playing in. That's what bending does. You're just bending the string, which you're bending the pitch of the note to another spot in the scale that you're currently playing in. That's generally what bending means. When we think of bending, we don't think you're going to land somewhere outside the key, because that would just be like playing a note that's outside the key. And unless you meant to use that note, it is going to sound out of key. So it's just like showing somebody a mistake when you hit the wrong note. Well, bending to the wrong note is the same thing. You're bringing that note into the song, just instead of picking it, you're bending to that pitch. So it's like jumping up onto the spot instead of walking up onto the spot. It's the same thing. You're getting there either way, but a different way of getting there. So that's one thing we need to understand, that bending reaches another pitch in the scale you're playing in. Now, vibrato does not do that. I guess it could if you really vibrato it hard, but even still, bending is going to at least hold that note most likely for some period of time, where vibrato holds nothing ever. So even if you were to hit the pitch while you're vibratoing, that is not considered a bend, because the bend has to reach the pitch and stay there long enough to recognize that it's in the key. And vibrato does not do that. Vibrato rushes over to the sound and is pulled back immediately. It's different. Vibrating is not the same thing. So we want to understand that when you're vibratoing a note, you're not changing the pitch of the note. You're just abusing the sound of the note you're playing. Two different things. I mean, if you're new to the guitar, some of this might be boring for you if you're not new, but if you're new, I'm going to show you what I'm talking about, because this can get very interesting. And if you're really interested in learning to play guitar and you're seeking legitimate lessons, well, this is what I'd be showing somebody. Again, if they sat with me on a Saturday morning for a lesson and they're beginning to play guitar, or I just hear them and their bending is not correct, I'm going to explain to you what we want to do. So let's just go over some of the basic things about both of these techniques. Vibrato does not reach the pitch, right? Bending does. So there are many ways to do both. So we're going to get into these ways and take our time going over some simple exercises that will very quickly teach you how to master these moves, how to stay in the key when you bend, because a lot of people just don't understand how to do that. And when I teach people in person and I say, show me your bending techniques, and I say, do you know what you're doing there, or what are you doing there? I don't get the answers that I like that tell me they know what they're doing. So we have to show them ways to improve whatever they're doing so that you can get finished with learning how to bend. It shouldn't take more than a few weeks at the most to really become a masterful bender or someone who uses vibrato well. These things shouldn't take you very long at all if you're doing them correctly and you have proper ways to achieve these goals. So I'm going to give you those proper ways. And if you've done some ways before, like I said, you might already have some skills. I'm hoping to make them better, because these are things you can do that if you're not doing them, they will improve your playing no matter what. That's what I'm here to do, is help you improve. So again, for you guys that are already playing, if you're not closing your eyes and sounding like somebody on a record or a CD or something you downloaded, like if you're not sounding like another professional player, well, hopefully you will be able to with these ideas that I'm going to show you, because these really work. It's all simple stuff. I'm not trying to make it complicated. I'm not trying to play something you can't play. I want you to be able to play this. So the last thing I'm going to do here, which I really can't stand when I watch other videos, is showing some exercise that takes an hour just to figure the thing out. That's ridiculous, and I'm totally against that, and I don't agree with that. And no one learns. Everybody watches, the guy gets views, but nobody learns. That's the difference. So you're going to learn something today. So the first thing I'm going to go over, it's more I like the vibrato. I can't wait to get to that. So let's start with the bending, because there's just some things we want to go over and cover. I'm going to use box 1 of the E minor pentatonic scale, although I am in drop C, so this string here is a drop D string. So what that means for me is I may or may not move over when I go. I don't think I'll even get to that up there, but we'll see. Now, the bending thing goes like this. We're going to need to learn a transition. If you've already seen, I've mentioned it in some other things here and there, but at this point, finding where I've mentioned it somewhere else is like finding a needle in a haystack. There's 170-something videos. I don't even know where I throw it in here and there, but we're going to do it directly today, here, now, like for real. So the first thing we want to understand is when we do a bend, none of these fingers are strong enough to do one on their own. All of you guys, I don't care if you're 6'3" and you're Chewbacca, it just doesn't matter. You're not going to be able to bend consistently and reliably with one finger. No one has ever done it, and you're not going to be the first. So just get that one out of your head. You need 2 fingers. So and that right there signifies that a technique has to be learned. You have to learn a new technique because you're using 2 fingers. Now, I'm going to show you what this technique is and how to switch to it. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to bend the basic. We're just going to start real simple here, right? We got this G note. And we're going to bend now. I'm tuned to hell. So this guitar is in drop C. So this string is a whole step down from standard. So if you want to sound like me and you're in a standard tuned guitar, bump yourself back 2 frets to the F and you'll be on my G. Now, what we're going to do is you need 2 fingers. And the way the bending works is, so this is where everybody gets confused. They go like this. They go like this. They don't know how to put the hand in there. So I'm going to tell you like this. I'm going to show you what I show everybody else. And if you don't like this method, then I don't know what to tell you. But even though I give it to beginners, so I'm not going to say that I give it to children. The children happen to be beginners. But if you were an adult and you were a beginner, I would still do the same thing for you. And here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to show you how to do this at home. This is like no joke. When you see this ridiculousness, you're going to know I really have your best interest at heart. Because I wouldn't do this if it didn't work. It looks kind of ridiculous. But here's what I did. I dotted my fingertips on the spots where I want the strings to lay on my fingertips. So you're going to have to train your brain to land in these spots, the highest points on your fingertips. And the pinky, you put one on the side. See, you run it right down the side. Because that's where you're going to touch the string. And you want to know that the string is touching the spots you marked. Because the highest points on your fingers is where you're always going to want to touch the guitar. Now, if you've been playing a while and you're not up on the fingertips, well, then you really, in my opinion, you really should learn to do this. You really should get to that point where you're on the fingertips. Because that's what creates the accuracy and the cleanliness of your playing when you are advanced. When you're able to play at lightning speeds, it's only going to be because you've developed an on-point technique. Where you're on the points of your fingertips. You got to be on the highest points. Nobody plays fast like this. The hand is out here, but the fingertips are like this. So you're always up on the fingertips. And so same thing for bending. And when you do it for bending, things change. So if you can already bend and you're more like this, well, I'm telling you that I'm going to help you improve that. Okay? This is tried and true. This is not my opinion. I'm not showing you something I think works for some people, or this is my way of doing it. This is how every successful player does it. Because although we're going to all do it a little differently, we do all follow the same techniques. In other words, we all drive in the lanes of the road, but how we drive within those lanes is our decision. And that's what makes us the driver that we are and the style that we drive within. So if you're a maniac out there still staying in the lanes, well, you're in the lanes, but you're driving like a maniac. Same thing here. So you can all be bending the way you want, but I'm going to show you a way even if you do it your way, you should still know how to do it this way so you can improve or vary your bending technique to some extent. And if there's anything I could do to improve mine when I was learning, I did it. So anything that would make you improve, you should do it. Even if it's just temporary. No one says you got to do it forever. But if you learn this way, you are going to play better. Now, here's how it works. You're taking the 2 fingers together, and you're putting them on the 2 dots right on the string. And you're going directly in. So now, you're going to hold the guitar with your fingers pushed directly in like this. Not on an angle, not up, directly into the guitar. So your knuckles need to be bent, just like mine. You need to look like I'm doing it. Just like this. My fingers are directly in. I'm not like this, going to push up, and I'm not coming in, coming down. I'm directly straight in. And that's what you need to start, straight in. Then from here, you're going to use your fret. Now, I'm going to say this to you guys, and some of you guys may not like what I have to say. That's just too bad because I'm not going to BS anybody. I cut right to it. If your frets are not tall, so a lot of you guys playing Telecasters, they're not typically, if it's a standard Telecaster, like an original style, they're not meant to bend strings when you've got a very short, shallow fret, and this is going to be challenging because all you're going to do is get wood. And so you're going to get wood. You'll do it, but you won't have the smooth, frictionless feel that you might have on a Strat with the larger fret. I just know Teles in particular have small frets. So if you're on a Telecaster and you're on a typical Telecaster, the frets might be kind of small. And so if that's the case, you got to just deal with that. But any guitar with a short fret that is not tall, you're going to run into wood. So taller frets are better for bending and vibrato. That's why hard rock and metal guitars come with the bigger frets, because it's for the bending purpose. It's for no other reason. You can scallop out the guitar or you can push the fret higher. Either way, you got to get away from touching wood underneath. So I scallop out. When I used to play Fenders, I scalloped them all out because that's the way it was. It was better for me. But the bottom line is you want to be in, and then that's what, from here, we're going to push up like that. And you're going to grab the other string. So look, I get this all the time. You don't even need a pick. Just learn to do this. Grab, and as you go up, you tilt the fingers back. You're gonna have to tilt them, so you're like this. You're gonna have to bring them back a little bit to figure out what works for you to grab the other string. Okay? So now I grab them both. Now when I grab them, I get them together like this. See? If you look at this fret right here, you'll watch my two strings join. See? That's what you're looking for. So however you got to... Now this is where I can't tell you what to do. I'm telling you how to figure it out though. You got to go from here and you adjust a little bit. No, never go up. Don't ever go up this way to bend up. You can't do it. It's impossible. You're always going to get under the string this way. The question for you is going to be, how much angle to this dangle do you need to push that string up? I mean, if you're really going to lay too flat, you're just going to roll right off the string. So you got to get in there. You got to push in and then up at the same time. In and up. Like curve it. In and up. So in and up. In and up will bring this string into the next one. So now we get a little volume. You see. You're going to work on bringing it down without snapping that other string, which it will snap for the beginners, and it will keep snapping until you spend enough time to develop the skill that doesn't snap. So if you're still snapping it, don't ask what to do differently, just do more of the same. Keep bending till you get better. And you won't bring that other, I can't even do it, but you won't get this snappy sound when you bring the string back down. All right, so we're going in and up. You're trying to immediately see my third string going up, meets up with the fourth one here. It doesn't have to touch the string, but it just can't knock it on the way back down. Now what I'm doing is I'm pushing in and up, so in and then up, and then when I'm up, I'm bringing it back down, so that when I'm back down here, I'm back to the original position I started in with my knuckles looking like that. So the knuckles change when you're bending. Watch. Now, it's not going to... We're only hearing that because I'm trying to teach it to you, but really, it would never happen that way. But that's what you're doing. You're leaving... Your fingers are going up, and then you're returning them back to the position they were in when you started, which is facing directly in. Then they go up. When they're up here, you're pushing a little bit, so you've angled them a little bit. You're going to have to learn the angle to the dangle on your own, and no one can teach you that. That's your own dedication to sit there and figure out how you got to pitch these fingers back just a little bit when you push the string up. Because if you do nothing and you just push it straight like this, you will get the snappy sound. You're going to get that all day. The way you don't get that is when you bend, you pitch back a little bit. When you're up here, you pitch back. As you're moving up, you pitch back. And then you gracefully bring it to the original position. And as long as you do it slow, you won't snap the string. If you go too fast, you'll snap the string. That's how that works. Okay? Now, let's address the part of, hey, Mezzi, I already know all that, so far you're wasting my time. Well, let's figure out how to get to the pitch without messing up the pitch when you go to the next note. Let's figure out how to get that pitch to be in key every single time. That's what you're all waiting for, right? You're skipping through the video. You're trying to find that spot. You're trying to find that spot where I'm talking about how to stay in key. Here it comes. It's 18 minutes and 12, 13, 15 seconds. Just jump to 18:15 and you'll see how to keep it in key when you do bend. Because here it comes, right? Here is the secret right now. You take the note you want to bend, and you ask yourself, how far up in the scale do I want to bend? Well, let me see what key I'm in. I'm going to use this key as the example. I'm in the key V minor. I've got a D. So I can bend. I'm not bending the D sharp. I guess the E flat if you wanted a flatted 5-type bend, but not really something you're going to want. You're going to bend this D to the E or the F sharp. I guess F if you're in A minor. Well, I'm in E minor, so there'd be no F, right? We'd be bending to the E or the F sharp. Or if you're crazy like me, you're going to go all the way to the G. However, for today's purpose to just learn, let's just go to the E. So we take the D, right? Bend it up. Before we bend, what do? We're going to memorize the pitch of the correct note. So you can use this E, or knowing your pitches, your string notes, you can use this one. Oh, are they out? Now they're in. So let's check it out. Now that we've played it a bunch of times, we know the pitch. You got to bring this bend up and stop it at that pitch. You got to memorize and remember what that sounded like. And bring it there. Oh, gosh. See? As you can see, nobody's perfect, my friends. I am not trying to be perfect. Just trying to teach you how to play the guitar. If you want to see my picking hand, I do whatever I feel like doing. There's no right or wrong way to pick it. You just do whatever's comfortable for you. If you like all downs, go for it. If you're good enough to do down up picking when you're doing it, then go for it. It's whatever you want to do. But the bottom line is you got to memorize this note so you can bring this one to it. Now, if you use this note instead of this one, I got to tell you, you have to make sure your strings are in the key or in tune, because if this note is a different string, this could be out of tune. If you play it on the same string, it's going to be in tune. Right? You just play this and you bend this to it. But this could be off. This could be lower or higher than this string. You know, this note's on this string, so there's it's going to be right no matter what, because you're just going here to there. But this note might not be the same as this one. So if you use this note and instead of this one, and you're out of key, you're going to bend to the wrong note. You got to make sure your guitar's in tune. So we know mine's in tune. So we know that it's just me doing it. You can vibrato it if you want, and then bring it to the pitch if you want to practice that. You just got to know where the pitch is. Right? Then you get into the double stop. So that's the bending thing. Now, aside from that part of the bending, there's a huge part of this bending technique that we did not learn that you must learn, that a majority of you probably don't use and may not know. But a lot of you might know it. I don't know. If you watch my channel, and you've already seen this, if you guys are veteran watchers, you've seen me show you this in at least 2 other videos. But when there's 170 something, I can see how you might miss it. So we're going to go over it again. The thing you need is the transition from whatever you're playing to the bend. And that's where nobody knows what to do. And that's why you come to me, because nobody else is going to show you that. I'm going to show you. Then we got to get to the one finger bending. Whoa. The vibrato, I mean. Holy cow. I'm going to get to some vibrato action. But let's get to the bending thing. The way you're going to get to these bends, I don't know, you're doing something else. Whatever you're doing. You could be down here. You could be doofing off. And now you're here and you realize you want to come up and bend and you want to get there. So the first thing you got to do is you got to slide into the bend. So when you're sliding into a bend, you need 2 fingers. You're going to grab any note you want, really, and slide them in. But you're going to look where you want to go. You look where you want to go, not where you're at, or you'll miss. So you look where you want to go, and then you bend. So 2 different ways. This is the first way to get into your bend. Slide in. Get to your bend. But there's something else that you need to learn how to do, and that is transition from this to this. And that's going to be like this. So if you were playing a lick and you were here going, or you're out here, you got to take this and get it to become that. So if you're playing this, if your pinky's in this box, you got to get it out and bring these 2 in for that. So you have to start getting in the habit of playing with these 2 fingers together when you're in the pentatonic area. So what happens is anytime you're in a pentatonic situation and you use your 3rd finger, you automatically want to use the 2nd. Because you don't know if you're going to bend this note. So let's say you're just going to play this note in part of your lick and you're going. Well, you would never really want to do it like that. You really don't want to use this finger alone unless you know you're going to do something else that doesn't require the 2nd finger. Then you know you're not using the 2nd finger. But if you're doing something like this, you saw me do it real quick. You got to drop these 2 in together from this. If you do that, it's okay, again, if you know you're not going to use this finger. But if you're playing a bluesy type of lick where there is a lot of bending and vibrato, well then, if you only use this, then you miss the chance to do this or this because you only have the one finger down. So what happens is when you're playing like this or like this, you got to go from this when you pull off to this finger back here and come back in with the 2. And I know it doesn't seem that difficult, but when you're playing at speed, you're not going to be able to do it unless it's practiced and it's intrinsic. So again, for the beginners, that's what you're trying to achieve, is the ability to go from this or this to this. Now, if you're coming up the scale and you're rifling in some shred fashion, well, then it's going to be even faster because you're going to walk in like this now. You're going to get this going. You need 2 fingers. Okay? So you're going to walk in from this to either this. So from this to this. Or you're going to do this. You got to get 2 in there somehow. Slide them in. See that? You got to get that transition from this to that. Or so here you're doing a little. It's just natural. I'm going to go. Or somehow you're going to have to go from this or this to this every time you want to end. Because when you end, you need a tail. You need a vibrato lick. You need that in the end. So let's say you do a little stupid little lick like this. Try to hold this thing. Hold this damn thing. So if you got 2 fingers on 2 frets like this and you want to do this, and you're playing 4 notes, right? You got to get to that. So you can go. That's what you got to be able to get in there. So when you're bending, you got to switch from a single fingular motion to the 2. Now, again, the faster you're moving around, if I do something like this, then those 2 fingers come in somewhere in here. So I go from this to this. So your practice move might be now I jump there by just jumping. But my eyes have the ability to jump from looking at this to looking at that and looking at this and looking at that as quick as I'm playing it. And that's what you need to develop, is some eye training. So you look where you're going, not where you are. You can start with a simple little lick like this. And go in for the vibrato kill right there with the 2 fingers. See that? You go from the 1 finger to 2. One finger to 2. Okay. It's getting these 2 guys together. They gotta meet up and hang out. And that's what you're working on, is the transition. Or just even this. You gotta get that finger in there. Now if you're walking it, then you gotta figure where to get I slide in for like a half of like a whole step. I come in, something like that. It's either a slide. It's either a slide. All right, but you see those fingers getting ready to go down. So if you keep these two together when you're playing in your pentatonic blend, then you're always ready for bending and vibrato. Whenever you lay down that third finger, you can do it if you want. Now, the other way to vibrato and bend is to use other fingers. If you're really good, you can use other fingers, like you just saw me use this. You can use the second finger. Or the first one for a little vibrato. So basically what you're going to do is just take this finger and pull sideways. Same thing with this one. But this one I'd even pair up with this one. It's occasionally that we'll use that second finger when you're in an awkward position. Sometimes you want it. If you're in tight, you definitely might want it. Now we're just pushing it up. Because this finger still has some strength in it by itself. You can get something to move. So now that you have the ideas down, you have to practice putting simple licks together that lead you to these moves. And that's where the transitions come in, with those finger changes that you need to make. Start being able to do short licks that involve only a few notes. And then you can make these things longer and longer as you move along. Then you start practicing all sorts of stuff. How about the second finger? Then you can get this move in. But again, if you use the third finger like we should be using, the reason this third is more common is because if I go, but I use two, then you get a little more control with two fingers. But if you're in a small area and you're not going far, I guess you can do whatever you want. You'll get more confident with the other fingers as you know you can use the third and fourth. You get that in there? It just depends on where you need to go, because if you wanted this box down here and you want this E minor arpeggio, you need this finger here. So you might be like, get that in there like this. Right? So the fingering matters which fingers you use, because whichever finger you use dictates where you can go next. If you're here, again, this finger choice allows you different things you can do down here versus having this finger there. So the fingers you use dictates what you're going to be able to do next. So there's the bending and the vibrato. There's how to get in and out of them a little bit. It just takes a little bit of practice. I'm not perfect, dude. I mean, I'm just a guy trying to help somebody else. So, not claiming to be anything special. Just I like to teach and I feel like helping people out. So if that helps you out, great. If it doesn't, well, then you wasted 30 minutes of your life. I don't know what to tell you. Thanks for watching, guys. I'm here to help you out. Leave a comment if you want to see a specific video on something just for yourself. Yeah, I'm like just like that, man. If you want your own video on something you're working on, just leave me a comment. I'll make the video for just for you. I'll make it for one person, and then everybody else can benefit. So, Lima, say goodbye. We're leaving. All right, there's Lima Bear. Guys, take it easy. We'll see you in another video. He's almost 15 years old. Have a great day.